And now, everyone, it is now time that we will cap this episode off with the grand finale. And for this grand finale, we are going to go on to a little rumor. Now, this started out as a rumor last weekend, and as I've stated just before the break, this was something that I have addressed with Logan, that we had a bit of a discussion if this is going to occur or not, and I'll just say now, I still stand by that it is highly likely that it will not occur. That whatever rumors are coming out, the thing is most likely going to be safe. But ever since the announcement and after D23, those rumors just kept on growing and growing and growing to the point that it's not been helping out with the anxiety of fans, and they have become increasingly concerned, and that's why we have been seeing more and more social media posts about this entire situation. Now, I didn't think that I would go and immediately have a whole discussion on this in the podcast, but let's go ahead and have a discussion in regards to Muppet Vision 3D. Now, for those of you who don't know, last weekend at D23, they have announced that there's going to be a new area at Disney's Hollywood Studios in Walt Disney World that is going to be entirely themed to Monsters, Inc., the hit Pixar film. And there's going to be some areas where, like, you could shop. There's also going to be, like, some restaurants, possibly, like, a real-life version of Harryhausen's. But especially the main attraction of all this is going to be a Monsters, Inc. themed roller coaster in which you go in the factory and that you will go into the door scene, that you will go and ride around and you'll see all the doors around. So it was an idea that for the longest time people have dreamed for an attraction like that, and Disney is finally going to go and bring that into a reality. However, ever since that announcement, there were rumors that were speculating that one of the possible places that it could actually go might actually be in the area that houses Muppet Vision 3D, one of the oldest attractions at Disney's Hollywood Studios and a massive fan favorite. So rumors are going around that maybe that's going to be replaced, that the ride itself is going to be gone, and that it will be replaced by Monsters, Inc. Now, from there, a lot of people would go and dismiss the argument, and they would go and actually say that maybe that's not really the case, and that instead they're going to go on the opposite end of the park, where instead Monsters, Inc. is going to be found in the animation courtyard area, where you would go and find a Star Wars launch bay, considering that the area is much larger than in Muppet Vision 3D. That gives more than enough room to go and build a roller coaster along with other things like, like restaurants and shops and stuff like that. But then things took a very unexpected turn when this article over here showed up. This is an article from The Wrap called "As Disney Tips Shuttering Muppet Vision 3D, Fans Decry Devastating News." And this is actually brought to us here by Drew Taylor, in which you may recall Drew Taylor as the guy who recently he wrote the article about the Netflix deal with Skydance Animation that we have previously talked about here on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And he would go and just bring up a bunch of fuel and just throw it in the fire, just make things even worse by trying to emphasize more and more that Disney may have actually considered to go and replace Muppet Vision 3D with the Monsters, Inc. area. And it's specifically, just to go and double check, but it's right over here, in which he went and, would it be over here? Yes, I do. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Right. Yeah, it's definitely this part, in which it states here, According to a source with knowledge on the situation, there was an alternate artwork that was going to be shown during this presentation that would have more directly pinpointed that Muppet Vision is on the chopping block. At the last minute, that artwork was swapped for something more nebulous. There were fears internally that Josh D'Amaro, the unflappable and widely beloved chairman of Disney Experiences, would get booed as he delivered the news. Eagle-eyed fans still spotted a telltale water tower that gave away the location, taking to social media to express the outrage. Essentially, it's to go and express that allegedly they would say that they were ready to go and make that announcement, but it was just at the last minute they decided not to do so and to swap it with a different artwork that they had prepared. Again, is this actually true? I don't know. And even on this article, they would go and address at the same time that they would actually go and replace, they would actually not replace Muppet Vision 3D, but instead be in the animation courtyard. But straight after that comment, they just went straight into discussing about the possibility of Muppet Vision 3D being removed for the Monsters, Inc. area. Even discussing with some high-profile Disney influencers or Disney-themed influencers, including Kevin Perjurer of Defunctland, asking for his opinion, and even Dan Becker, aka Disney Dan. In which he would go and also talk about his opinion on the entire piece. So basically, ever since this article came out, it just became this massive frenzy where people are freaking out about the possible prospects that Muppet Vision 3D might actually be taken out, in which the claims right over here would go and say that, well, they putting up this story about how, oh, well, Disney has considered it, or that, it was one of the ideas that they could go into the chopping block, mainly to go and emphasize that Muppet Vision 3D is in danger, like really put up that, to really highlight that particular thing to let fans know that its fate might not be completely sealed, or if it's going to be okay and stuff like that. Now, in that regard, I'm just going to go and repeat what I've previously said before, including what I've said with Logan in the last episode. Honestly, when you do think logically about this whole situation, I think it is most likely that Muppet Vision 3D is going to be safe. When you do think about Monsters, Inc. and how they would go and try to set things up where they want to go and have some shops, some restaurants, a possible meet and greet area where you take pictures with Sully and Mike and stuff like that, and then you want to have a major roller coaster involved in this whole situation, it makes a lot more sense to put it in a different area, like in the animation courtyard, than it would be in Muppet Vision 3D. Because Muppet Vision 3D is a relatively small space. It's just like this small little area that has a 3D theater, a shop, and a pizzeria. Well, not even, there is a shop, but there's also 2 restaurants, and that's pretty much it. Not enough space for what they would want to do with it. But in the animation courtyard, not only do you have much bigger space to go and create this massive attraction, not to mention that some of the things around it, they're not really that much in use. Even with the Lightning McQueen show that they have at Hollywood Studios, you could pretty much remove that and you could make more space for the Monsters, Inc. themed area. But it also makes a lot more sense where you would have this Pixar area be next to another Pixar area with Toy Story Mania, and or with Toy Story Land that has attractions like the Slinky Dog Dash and Toy Story Mania. That's what I mean. But also on top of that, if you would go and replace something like Star Wars Launch Bay, you would not receive as much backlash as you would with something like Muppet Vision 3D. Like, if you're going to replace Muppet Vision 3D, then of course there's going to be backlash. There will be some anger. There will be people who will be massively upset over it. But with Star Wars Launch Bay, not many people are gonna miss it. I mean, it like the building is no longer what it used to be. It's no longer it used to be the animation studio where they would do some extra help on some of the Disney Renaissance film, like The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast, and even did the animation for stuff like Lilo and Stitch and Mulan and Brother Bear. But nowadays, it's no longer that. And it's now just a shell of its former self. And at that point, you might as well just go and take it down entirely and replace it with something that would be a lot more exciting, especially if it can go and help spread the masses so that they don't clump up onto either Rise of the Resistance or Tower of Terror or Toy Story Mania, for example. At least, that honestly makes a lot more sense. So by that logic, I think honestly, it makes a lot more sense that you would keep Muppet Vision 3D and put Monsters, Inc. in another place. But still, though, that doesn't change the fact that there is a possibility that this could occur. Sure, the chances are low, but there is still a chance that could legitimately happen. And in that regard, that's why, even I went and actually made a post where I would go and express why I feel like it is important for Disney to go and keep Muppet Vision 3D, and not to mention how Muppet Vision 3D is my favorite attraction at Walt Disney World, to really go and let out my voice in this entire situation. And that's why there are people out there, they would go and release the hashtag, like they made a bit of a movement, like hashtag save the Muppets or save Muppet Vision and stuff like that. There is still that concern, like if that chance still does occur, well then we should still go and try to take action. But sorry, a bit of spit was about to go in the wrong hole, so anyways, as I was saying, there's also another thing that I do want to go and actually comment, and even though this article really freaked people out, there is something about it that I can't help but feel like, yeah, and also just to go and quickly mention, I do see in the chat wall, some people are actually bringing up a great point. This is not to mention about the historical value that Muppet Vision 3D has, which is Jim Henson's swan song as well. So there is some massive relevancy with the Muppets on why it should be kept there, not to mention on how important it is for the attraction to say, because it is the only one in the world that features Muppet Vision 3D. You cannot find it in any of the other Disney parks. I mean, it's one thing to go and get rid of Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer's Island at the Magic Kingdom. Like, that's not that big of a deal, considering that it still exists at Disneyland, where you could find the OG Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer's Island. So it's like, yeah, it's a bit of a loss, but it's not that big of a deal. But if they remove Muppet Vision 3D, it's going to be gone, forever. That's going to be the only one that they're going to fully remove, and that's it. But back to what I was talking about, specifically with this article right over here, there is something that I feel like I have to say and honestly criticize a bit. Because, yeah, this article here really did spread a lot of paranoia and a lot of fears in regards to the fate of Muppet Vision 3D. But there is something about it that, honestly, when you do look at it and read it in full, I cannot help but feel like the point of this is not necessarily to go and state the facts, but to really go and push a narrative. Again, I just want to point out, he does quickly highlight about the possibility that it's going to be at Animation Courtyard and on the other side, and that Muppet Vision 3D is going to be safe, but it only emphasizes this part right here. It doesn't change that the rest of it is nothing but Muppet Vision 3D and the possibility that it might get removed, really emphasizing all of that as well. And that's why I feel like with Drew Taylor in this case, that he's really pushing, like really the goal of it is to go and spread that paranoia, to go and spread the fear that Muppet Vision 3D might be closing down. Like even with his articles when he would discuss about Skydance Animation, like you could tell that he's really expressing a lot of his personal biases and doing so much to try to make Skydance Animation and John Lasseter look good, like to really put John Lasseter's prospects as an animation visionary back onto it. You know, kind of like he unironically believes in the advertising that they would do with either Spellbound or with Luck. So in that regards, that is why I am saying right over here that when it comes to Drew Taylor, if you hear any reports that the source comes from him, I highly recommend that you go and press X to doubt. You know, I am not accusing that he is a liar. I'm not accusing him that he's spreading misinformation. But it's just at the point where I can't help but feel like the more I would hear the things that he would go and bring out and that he would break some kind of news, the more it honestly feels like it becomes increasingly ridiculous. Like on top of this article, apparently he also released a bit of news that allegedly the Tiana series for Disney Plus is going to have not 2D animation, but rather some subtle Spider-Verse-like hybrid animation going on. I don't know. I feel like the more that comes out of that guy, the more it feels like it's harder and harder to believe. Again, I'm not saying he's a liar. I'm not accusing him of spreading misinformation, but I'm honestly really questioning his journalistic integrity when all he's mainly doing is just forcing out a narrative and forcing out his biases. So that's why, honestly, like, don't immediately trust what this guy says at face value. Again, just press X to doubt when you hear about what he would go and say. So with that said, though, if there is something else that I would highly recommend, is that you would go and check out this article over here called The Future of Muppet Vision 3D, What We Know and What We Don't Know from toughpigs.com. Now, you would think that on a website that is dedicated to all the Muppets, you would think that maybe this one would be heavily biased as well, but more biased for Muppet Vision 3D. But that is surprisingly not the case. This is actually something that is actually very balanced, and the main goal of it is to go and state the facts. Like separate the sections where they would go and argue why is it Muppet Vision 3D would be closing and why is it that Muppet Vision 3D would not be closing, and putting out their arguments that actually are pretty interesting, are honestly pretty interesting. Some that I have brought up even, and that honestly, they would even bring up their own good points as well. And they even mentioned the most important thing to do, the most important thing to do about all of this, number one, is that we do not panic. We do not freak out about this entire situation. No matter what you would hear about Muppet Vision 3D, do not panic, do not freak out, and keep in mind, nothing has been confirmed. The only time we will ever get a confirmation is if Disney is going to say something. But in the meantime, what we can do in terms of action is that you can go and express your voice. To go and use your voice, express yourself, go on social media, and talk about what Muppet Vision 3D means to you. If you care about the attraction, if you still want it to be in operation, then just let your voice be heard. Go out and say it. Tell people to go and share posts about Muppet Vision 3D and why you want to go and keep it. That's the best thing that you can do right now until we actually get an answer. And that is the one thing that from all this, I do hope pretty soon we will get an answer. I do hope that Disney will actually say something. And again, even though that for me, I feel like I'm still in the position where I feel like it's most likely that Muppet Vision 3D is going to stay and not be replaced by the Monsters Inc. area. Just right now, I feel like with me and many other fans out there, we're kind of like at the end of Inside Out 2. Like with anxiety just running around our little heads, just going around, whoa, what if it happens? What if they do shut it down? What are they going to do? And just cause a little bit of a tornado. If anything, we just want Disney to just make a little bit of a post to go and address that they are not replacing Muppet Vision 3D. Like, even throughout the week, I was hoping that Disney would go and actually say something about it, and that maybe they would just say that we never plan to go and replace Muppet Vision 3D. Whatever you read on social media is just full of crap, or what have you. Or maybe that the people who would write articles that maybe Muppet Vision 3D are liars and stuff like that. I was hoping Disney would go and do that. But it's just not really helping the case when Disney is being silent. I mean, if you're going to go out of your way to go and address some of the controversies, like with the whole Disney Plus arbitration case, or with the whole situation with Bo DeMeo and stuff like that, then you could at least get out of your way to go and make one little post addressing what are you going to do with Muppet Vision 3D, and if you are going to be keeping it or not. Because that's ultimately all that we are asking right now. Are you going to keep Muppet Vision 3D? Just tell us what your plan is. Just say something so that we can have some relief, so that we can at least have some answers. That's all that we are asking for. And again, with me, even though I don't think it's going to be likely that they will shut it down, I'm still someone, like, as a lifelong Muppet fan, and as someone who loves Muppet Vision 3D, and again considers it one of my favorite attractions, I don't want to see this go. So that's the only thing that I'm only asking from Disney. Like, I know with my podcast, like, it's not really that big, and I'm still considered a relatively small YouTuber, but I'm just asking Disney, if you're ever listening, just tell us what you're going to do with Muppet Vision 3D. Let us know that if the ride is going to be safe, and let us know where you're going to put Monsters Inc. Because I'm just saying right now, I am definitely not opposed to the Monsters Inc. area. Like, definitely go and build it. I think it's going to be an excellent idea. I think it's going to be great. And I think you're going to nail it when you're going to release it. But please let us know what you're going to do or where you're going to place it. And please don't replace Muppet Vision 3D, especially with the fact that it's the only piece of Muppet history that we do have in the theme parks, or the only Muppet representation that we have in the theme parks. And for me, it would just be absolutely heartbreaking if you would just go and take that away. So I just want to go and express that. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go into the chat wall. And I would like to go and ask you all, what do you all think about the Muppet Vision 3D rumors? Do you guys believe that it might actually be the case? Do you think it might shut down? Or do you think it is so far safe? Let me know what you think. All right, now, cross my heart, I am concerned for Muppet Vision 3D, but all since I do believe it's a rumor and nothing but that. Heck, I know they still care for it, considering your look back said they recently refurbished it with new seats and effects. That was less than a year ago. Even my sense of anxiety is taking over that will possibly do that, but I guarantee that it will all be okay. It's all just a wait and see. But for real, one person's idea is to switch places with Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor with Muppet Vision at the Magic Kingdom. I don't know, like I could see where you're going with it, but I don't know if I could see Muppet Vision 3D at Tomorrowland. Well, then again, I mean, it wouldn't be a terrible idea, considering that, like, you can make, like, with Tomorrowland, you can make it all themed to, like, Dr. Bunsen Honeydew and Beaker's Lab and stuff like that. So maybe there could be an idea. I don't know. Maybe. Let's see now. This feels like a wish on a monkey's paw. Everyone and their mother wanted a roller coaster based on the Monsters Inc. door vault, but we didn't know that this might be the price. Considering how the Muppet Vision 3D was one of the final performances of Jim Henson as Kermit, and a stepping stone in Disney buying the Muppets, It's like destroying history. Tearing down Muppet Vision 3D is like tearing down Mount Rushmore. It's like tearing down Mount Rushmore. I was about to do a hiccup while I was talking. Anyways, while I will admit when I first heard about this news, I was concerned about Muppet Vision 3D, but I do think it could be fine, considering how the area where Muppet Vision 3D is located is too small, and not to mention with how much of a fan-favorite attraction it is, with it being one of Jim Henson's last projects. If Disney would get rid of it, it would prove how Disney doesn't care about the Muppets. Yeah, you're telling me, dude. Anyways, I'm really hoping that Disney isn't going to close down both Muppet Vision 3D and Rock and Roller Coaster, because not only they're both beloved attractions, but also play a part in a lot of people's childhoods. I'm glad we're seeing a Mr. Toad's Wild Ride style movement where people come together to save the ride. If they're going to put a Monsters Inc. land, put it in Launch Bay. No one cares about that anymore. Well, I don't know if I would say a Mr. Toad Ride style movement, because, yeah, people really did get upset during that time, but that still didn't change that Disney removed Mr. Toad's Wild Ride in favor of Winnie the Pooh. So I'm hoping that it won't be like that, where there's going to be a lot of protests and outrage, but Disney is still going to do it anyways. So I'm just hoping that it's not the case right there. I think I'm going to go and read one more comment, and then that'll be it from here. I'm still trying to process D23. I met Bob Iger, Kevin Feige, Jon Favreau, Warren Spector, Pete Docter, Bill Farmer, Miley Cyrus, and some content creators I adore. I really hope I'll experience Muppet Vision 3D for the first time next week at Walt Disney World. The Muppets is strong with my family, especially with my father. Oh, dang, that is actually really awesome. And yeah, well, I mean, if you're going next week, then it is for sure you're going to see Muppet Vision 3D.